It takes a small, committed team focused on a common goal to make big things happen. Faculty, clinical teachers, and candidates have spent the past 2 years working systematically and collaboratively to prepare for teacher candidates' completion of edTPA during the spring semester 2015. In this video, we would like to share some findings which emerged from the voices of teacher candidates, clinical teachers, and university supervisors who have participated with us in piloting the implementation of edTPA. Student teaching cannot be the first time that teacher candidates are introduced to the knowledge, skills, and dispositions required to successfully complete the edTPA. The research-based effective teaching concepts that undergird edTPA should be infused developmentally across the cohort program.
For me, during year one, it was the assessment class that we did. It was working with the different types of assessments and using it when we started off our planning, so that way we knew which direction we needed to head into with our classes. Because when I originally started teaching, I didn't even think about looking at the test I was going to use first. I thought about, okay, well, I'll get through the lessons first and then I'll base my test off of that. I didn't even think about using my test as a structure for what I could base my lessons off of, so that really helped me out a lot.
One of the best things about TU is you get to be in the classroom from your very first semester. I always thought that my dream job would just be teaching kindergarten, and I would never want to do anything else, and I wouldn't know what to do with older students because I was just so used to being with the little babies. But now that I've been in second grade, I've been in fifth grade, I've gone with kindergarten, I've been in a first grade classroom, so I really feel like I can teach anything I want to.
My most influential experience that I had was our methods class with Professor Pepin. In that class, I learned how to properly write lesson plans and do everything that I needed to do with a lesson plan. I learned how to use my academic vocabulary, academic language, language demands, language function, and I didn't realize how important those things were until I got to this point.
Like Bree said, with the academic language, and using it now in my classes now, knowing how to get my students to speak the language, not just have it written on the lesson plan, and to take them from speaking the language, doing the work, and just putting it all together.
I definitely think learning how to videotape and upload all of our videos right from the beginning is one of the biggest things that we were able to learn right from the start. We're not even in a field experience and we're doing it with one another. We videotape our lessons, we're putting it online, we're putting it on YouTube. That way our professors can go ahead and they're learning how to, well, they're grading it, we're learning how to upload it, how to name the files, how to cut our files, how to make sure the files are a small enough size, how to save them as emails, do everything. That way we can send them to edTPA, but we don't even realize it. So really,
Providing students an opportunity to walk through the edTPA, completing each task with extensive feedback prior to the final semester is critical.
Last year's experience in Professional Core 3 helped prepare me for completing edTPA, mostly by the structure and the chunking of the segments, and then putting the segments together a couple pieces at a time. But the single most thing that helped me was I learned to deconstruct the standard, and most of that came from your feedback, Dr. Haygood's feedback. Without the love, as we like to call it, I would not be where I am right now.
Well, last semester experience Professional Core 3 helped me by giving them a little more. Each time you would tell me, Victor, give me a little more. I'm there, but you're not giving me just a little bit of evidence that needs to tell the story. Tell your story. That's what I try to do every time. This time, just tell my story. Stop just saying, for instance, the kids did X, Y, Z. Explain how they did X, Y, Z.
our first semester this year was absolutely crucial for our second semester of this year. Being able to be in the classroom with the students that we were going to do our edTPA with is what made it so easy. So it wasn't just feedback from one professor, it was feedback from a whole variety of people on top of our master students, and we also got provided with different graphic organizers. So when we got to semester 2, It was just a flip around of, oop, I've got all of this different stuff. I know exactly where everything belongs. Let me just go ahead and plug in all my new information. Here we go, we're done. It's good to go.
They did kind of a trial run on a couple of the aspects of edTPA in the first portion of the year. And I remember when I was working with our student, there were a lot of questions that she had that we were able to work through. So I really believe that what I call the little trial run, or working with it in the first part of the year in a little bit more of an informal way, where it's not a grade and it's not mandatory, and will give the students an advantage to help them produce a product that is really more in line with their abilities and how proficient they've become in what they're doing.
A variety of learning supports, such as graphic organizers, progression levels, mock samples, peer feedback, timelines, or deadlines, helps candidates find the ones that best support their learning.
One of the learning supports that helped me prepare for edTPA was the Making Good Choices handout. The Making Good Choices handout pretty much just explained what all goes into each prompt on the tasks. And for instance, I didn't really know what syntax was because I never really heard of it before. But now I know, because in the Making Good Choices, it explains what the syntax is and where it should go in task 1.
And this graphic organizer just lays everything out for you. Granted, it does not, it just gives us bullet points of where things need to go and brief little bitty summaries of how stuff needs to fall. So if you don't understand stuff as in-depth as we understood it, and you just put it in there just like that, you're just probably going to get maybe a 3. But we're going for those and ors on those rubrics. That's what we're headed for, and that's what last semester prepared us for.
The year-long student teaching placement provides the best format for the deep reflection about student learning that is central to edTPA.
Yeah, I think being in the classroom year-long for the student teaching, I think it's really helped. Not only has it helped them get used to us, it helps us get used to them, because you're with them longer, so you have a lot more time to figure out who needs to learn what way, who needs a little bit more help in which specific parts of the content area. So it helps you to learn your students a lot more, sometimes just by sitting there watching them while your mentor teacher's teaching, and sometimes by walking around co-teaching with your mentor teacher, so that way you're getting a little bit more hands-on experience before it's completely your class.
Being here every single day, being here with them from day 1, first day of school, I have gained a relationship with my students. I know who they are. I know when something's wrong with them. I know how they learn. I know what to do with my students to help them learn. I know what ways they're set in, and I know, all right, his font needs to be a little bigger. He doesn't do very well when his text is a little small, or he needs to stand up right now because I can see he's doing a little Nancy dance. So I understand what they need, and I know exactly when they need it. Whereas before, if I was only in half the semester, that wasn't happening.
For the teacher candidate to experience the greatest growth, clinical teachers and school administrators must be familiar with the edTPA.
What's helped me the most is we realized a correlation between the 3 of us, my 2 mentor teachers and myself. We've realized a correlation between edTPA, which was foreign to them, and TEKS, which we are thinking they are one and the same. It's just different. The school calls it something different, and we were actually a pilot school for the TEKS program in Decatur County, in our system. And so once they realized that it was TEKS, they were able to help me a lot. And then they came and took your seminar, and we've been on the same page ever since.
Okay, after the training, my mentor teacher, she came back. She knew exactly what I needed to do, and she knew exactly what areas I needed to improve on. She was able to watch my videos or get feedback of how I did my first semester, and now she knew what areas I needed to improve in. So she basically would push me every day. She would tell me, you need to improve here. Maybe you shouldn't have said that, or maybe you should add a little more here for the students. Make it clearer. So she was there to just give me feedback to get better and better, because she knew exactly what I needed, She knew where I struggled at, and she knew where I performed well then.
One of the biggest things that changed for me as a result of the edTPA meeting, the training meeting that we had, was my frame of mind, my perspective as to what my job was. And I came away from that meeting feeling empowered.
edTPA is a tool that facilitates candidates thinking more deeply about teaching and learning.
I think edTPA has facilitated my focus on student learning by getting away from planning how I'm comfortable with the lesson to getting closer towards what's going to help the students more. That I need to go out of my comfort zone in order to make sure the students aren't getting too much out of their comfort zone, so that way they're in a positive learning environment and they're in the best case scenario for them in order to get everything possible. So if that means me doing something that I'm not used to doing, as far as maybe like teaching a different method, like teaching more kinesthetically than visually, then I'll do that to make sure my students are learning in the best way possible.
Well, as you know, initially a year ago, I was rather skeptical of the additional workload that I thought it would place on our student teachers, particularly during the last semester when they're already feel so overloaded in planning lessons full time. But I have the opportunity to supervise these student teachers, and as I go around the county and in Thomasville and in Bainbridge and observe these teacher candidates, I've seen amazing growth. They seem well prepared. They are more reflective in their decision-making processes and deciding what lessons to plan, ensuring that they're student-oriented, that they're hands-on, minds-on. I see that our teacher candidates are using assessment information to make better decisions. They're using research to make sure they utilize appropriate strategies and meet the needs of the students.
I think when we got a chance to look at the feedback, we opened up a line of communication that we didn't have prior to that.
I agree.
And we started to see some strengths and weaknesses that we hadn't seen or hadn't talked about seeing, and that generated some plans. All right, where do we need to go from here? I think that the biggest thing I saw was it opened a big line of communication. I remember we didn't communicate a lot prior.
No, but we did afterwards.
But we did after, and we kind of got all pumped up about, okay, now we understand a little bit more about what we're to do. Let's do our job, and let's get this right, and let's help this young lady.
And so